It took about a month. And that was because for the first 3 weeks, I went to my doctor. And the first time, and even though the doctor knew I was on Humira, it was in a rural place, and it was the doctor's first job. And there were no cases in that particular county of TB. In the county I had just moved to, there were only 3 cases, so the doctor probably wasn't so familiar. And she said, take this, and I had a fever, night sweats, and cough. And she said, after I had it about a week, I went to the doctor. The 4th time, they said, go and get an x-ray, but it was the weekend. I got the x-ray. And then on Monday, they said, go to the hospital. And then when I was in the hospital, they said I had very severe pneumonia. They had all the interns coming over to look at my x-rays because they were all cloudy. And then they said that then they took fluid from the side of my lung, from the side of my body, I guess, from my lung. I can't remember if they took sputum at that point. And then after about 4 days, they said I had TB, but they didn't know what kind. They put me in the isolation unit. And then about 5 days after that, so now we're talking about 9 days in the hospital, they said that I did not have MDR, that I had regular TB. And then I was about 3 more days in the hospital until I could get off the respirator. Well, I didn't know anything about TB. And even though when you get Humira, you have to listen to this phone call saying that you could get this and that, and you could die, and you could get TB. After you've listened to that a few times, you just kind of go like this, and then you say, okay, and then they deliver it. And quite frankly, I was so unwell that everybody was going, oh my God, they were so like my family and things. But my husband handled all those calls, and I really didn't think that much. Then when I saw, after a time, how worried everybody was, I had a lot of questions, like, am I going to live? Am I going to get better? How long am I going to have this? And then they were all super thrilled, especially my sister, who's a doctor, when I didn't have MDR, but that didn't really sink in. I didn't really understand what that was at that time. The biggest challenge was the isolation. So I was quarantined for 6 months. Luckily, I'm kind of an introvert, so it wasn't as terrible as it would be for some people. But I was in a rental, and the room was this ugly split pea soup color, and but I tried to get out of bed and sit on the couch in the living room, but not the first 2 months. The first 8 weeks, I was basically not getting better. And the nurse who came to give me my DOT treatment kept saying, we're worried because you're not getting better. And I wasn't getting better. And in fact, at night, a lot of nights I had these terrible sweats, and I had to change my pajamas, and the next day or somebody maybe would change the sheets, usually not. So I had all this isolation, and after I got better, which did take at least a year to get my muscle tone back, and at first I could only walk 10 steps, and I still felt emotionally very, very frail because I was completely isolated. I still had never met one person who had TB or communicated with them online. The one thing that was supportive is, family called, but I usually couldn't talk, and if I did talk, I coughed every other word, so it was kind of a funny phone call. But my brother sent me a card once a week, and a lot of times they were funny. And then my cousin, to whom I'm really close, she's like a sister, her daughter, who was 7 years old, made this really nice drawing for me. And she showed, and I used to do a lot of hiking. I was in Asheville, North Carolina before I got ill, and I'm an artist, and she showed me ill before and after, where she showed me hiking up this really steep mountain and standing up there with my easel with a big smile on my face. So that, I put it on the wall, and that was very comforting.